Your company's purpose should help you achieve your personal purpose. But your personal purpose and the company's purpose should help your employees achieve theirs. Because if they don't help them achieve it, then they will come to work for you because they have to, not because they want to. And they will stay because they have to, not because they want to.
Hey, welcome back, everyone, to another episode of Eat, Sleep, and Invest. I'm your host, Brian Driscoll, and I'm here with Gary Harper. What's going on, man?
Hey, Brian, how are you? Thanks for having us on, man.
Hey, thanks, man. I'm glad you could come on. So everyone listening, today's going to be a pretty good talk. So Gary handles processes, systems, helps companies scale, does a lot of good stuff. So Gary, give us a little background on what all you do.
Yeah, so Sharper Business Solutions is an ecosystem. So what we do is we provide entrepreneurs with the tools to scale their business. And what I like to refer to as rising to your 100%. So whatever that 100% is for you, right? So everybody has a different 100%, but we want to help you determine what that 100% is and help you rise to it. And so Sharper Business Solutions comes on working with a client one-on-one or in a teaching facility to help you get the knowledge, skills, and experience you need in order to grow your business. We do that with business operating systems. We have a company that helps you hire people. We have a company that hosts events. We have a company that's a process, procedures, and policy company that documents those things for you. So a lot of different companies. We actually have a company called Sharper Studios. When I talk about ecosystem, we actually have like a full suite of businesses that help complement a business entrepreneur's needs in order to help them grow so they can focus on what they do well, right? Their core business, instead of having to be an expert in hiring, an expert in media, an expert in, process documentation and procedural documentation, an expert in systems and processes and a business operating system. Everybody thinks they have to become an expert in order to grow their business. And the truth is they don't. They just have to let somebody else be the expert so they can focus on what they're great at.
That makes sense. So now, Gary, so your business or businesses has become pretty large. How did you get into this? Like, what made you start this and how did you get into this space?
In my younger years, I started in corporate America. So I was working for what was called a business process outsourcing company and a BPO company. And so we would actually come into Fortune 500 companies and focus on their business processes that were not core to their company. So similar to what I'm doing now, right? So as what I'm doing now, we were able to come in and take off the burden of all these things that are not core process-wise for their business, right? And so I learned that at a very young age. Actually, 1997 is when I started. And so I started working with Fortune 500 companies. By the time I was 22, 23 years old, I was a national manager of business initiatives and development. So I became an executive in a corporate America company that allowed me to work with Fortune 500 companies. I was traveling around the country. My kids were really young. And then I actually grew into another company it was similar in size, expanded our offering and started learning more, got certified in Six Sigma and things like that. By 2004, I could see like corporate America was a great path for me to get knowledge, but it wasn't a great path for me for freedom. And so by 2004, I decided to start buying and selling real estate. 97, I was already working in real estate to some degree. My brother-in-law actually brought me into it, but more in a labor perspective. Like as I was young, I actually moved to Northwest Indiana from Virginia. And when I did, I needed a place to live and I needed a job. So my brother-in-law gave me a job and a place to live in one of his rentals, right? And the job was to protect the rental, right? Because it was in an area that wasn't one of the cleanest or nicest areas. So my job was to protect it from copper bandits and things like that. So I started that and then actually started working with him to rehab them and, do siding and started learning the trade of the craftsmanship of rehabbing houses. So by 2004, I've made this career jump, tons of experience and success in corporate America. But I could see the writing on the wall, and it was, I'm like, man, I've got to change this. I can't just be a corporate rat the rest of my life. I've got to create some level of freedom for myself. And I was making corporate America a lot of money. And don't get me wrong, man, I was making decent money, right? Like as an executive, you make six figures and more, right? But for me, it was like, it wasn't about just the money. It was about the freedom of being able to control my own path. So 2004, I started buying and selling real estate. And really at the time I was just holding, I was, fixing houses and then holding them as rentals. And then like a lot of us, I got wrapped in 2008 to 2010 and the market crashed and I was underwater on a lot of my rentals. I owned a company called Calumet North Properties with my dad and my brother-in-law. and it crashed. Like the company didn't, but like my investments did. And so I was licking my wounds pretty hard at that point. Now, still in corporate America, I decided to go ahead and focus my efforts on, continuing to grow my career instead of being in real estate. And I think God just had a different plan for me because I got bit that year with a tick. Came down with Lyme disease. I went back to like a 5-year-old mental state for a short period of time. Like I had an infection on my brain. Like it was very similar to like a meningitis that just really just ravaged my whole body. And I was not okay. I was forced because of my health to leave corporate America. And they didn't want me to leave. I had one executive of the year at like 8 out of 10 years. So it's not like they wanted me to leave, but I was very ill. Like I couldn't get out of bed. So fast forward to a year later, I was finally getting healthy again. Doctor had figured out a way to get me healthy. And I had the choice. It's like, do I go back to corporate America, which they would have had me back easy, or do I go with my brother-in-law and partner up with him to, get back in real estate? And so I did. I went back to real estate. We started wholesaling at that time. We were buying and selling probably about 50, 60 deals a year first year. And then over the next 3 years, we ramped it up to over 300 deals a year. And by 2016. And the way I did it was very similar to the way I coach people now. Is the way I did it was I used a business operating system, right? And I used my experience from corporate America. Because essentially what we did was we would go in and implement a similar thing. We would implement some type of business operating system for their non-core business processes. And so I used my experience with Six Sigma. I used my experience with leadership. I used all this experience I gained from like 13 plus years in corporate America, and I applied it to entrepreneurship, right? And so those two things, good product, successful business customers, and our business operating system, along with my experience, I think allowed us to grow pretty quickly. Honestly, I want to be clear here. It wasn't like the Gary Harper thing. This was a team effort. Like I had a great partner, my brother-in-law. I had another great partner as well. And honestly, the second partner brought in over 70% of our sales. Like it was a team effort. I don't think anybody ever builds a business and it's like, I'm the one that did it, right? Like it takes an army. It takes an army to build a successful company, especially in real estate. And so I brought my piece to the table. They brought their piece to the table. And I think together we were successful. But 2016, I started a company with one of those partners called Good Success. And it was about creating the right kind of success, right? Not just having success, but like we were going to masterminds and things and finding people like with failed relationships and like health problems and all these different like negative things that were impacting their life. And their business seemed successful, but every aspect of the rest of their life was not. And so I wanted something to help us focus on having good success. The Bible in Joshua chapter 1:8 talks about what good success is. And so we built that company. And then, for me, it still talked a lot to real estate, how to be a real estate investor. And I don't really particularly love real estate, just being transparent, Brian. Like it's not my passion. I always tell people it's a thing to get me to my thing. And that did that for me. When you do that many deals, you put that much money away, like you become successful in real estate. You can put a lot of money away and become success, get retired. And so I decided to sell my shares. I did to my partner, and I walked away for a little while. So I took a little time off. I remember sitting at home and enjoying life. I was like, I was probably 38 at the time. My wife was still teaching, and she was teaching at a Christian school, and she enjoyed it. She didn't do it for the money. We had a good life, and my kids were still young. I'll say young. They were in their teens, and I was just sitting at home, and I got a call one day from a gentleman, and he's like, "Hey, can you help me a little bit? Can you give me some advice on how to help me with my business?" Right? And so I started mentoring him and started growing, and the next thing I know, like he grew like 400%. And then I helped somebody else, and I was doing a lot of this through Zoom, and he grew. And then they started going to masterminds and talking about how they were growing, and of course, everybody's like, "What are you doing? How are you doing this?" And then people were like, he's like, I'm talking to Gary Harper, and he was successful in real estate, and he's helping me. And then the next person called, and then the next person called. And at some point, I don't remember how it happened exactly, but I turned to my wife in 2016, and I'm like 17, that era. And I'm like, if we're going to keep doing this, if I'm going to keep doing this, like, we should step it up, right? And we should go to their offices. I really want to be embedded in their culture. I want to see what they're doing. Like, I want to, be able to help them a little bit better. And we actually got EOS certified at that point, and we implemented EOS like over 500 times. And I started seeing a lot of holes in the business operating system. And I'm not taking anything from it. Like, it's a good system. It's really good. And it works. But like when you're scaling, like there are some components like finance that you have to have, right? There are some things like procedures that you have to have. It's not enough just to document your processes. You got to have procedures and policies. And then there's leadership and there's other things that like a business operating system like EOS kind of leave you wanting more, you know? And I always say like there's different steps of a business growth to rising to your 100%. There's 4 quadrants to getting there. And like a lot of times EOS lives in the beginning stages of that entrepreneur journey, not in the latter stages where you got like scaling up and make big happen that kind of live in that latter journey. But I found myself like thinking that we needed something that was congruent all the way through. And so I started writing our own. I wrote Sharper Process and it was all right. It wasn't great. And then I learned from it. And then we built another one and that one was pretty good. And I sold it and to a partner of mine. And then the third one that I've just written is called Rise, and it stands for Resources, Inspiration, Systems, and Engagement. And so from that leaving and that first phone call to come and help me to now, we've now coached over 1,800 companies. It's been a cool journey in the last 7 years now. My wife, stopped working as a teacher. She came on board with me full time at one point. Now we have multiple companies, some in this Sharper ecosystem, some out of the Sharper ecosystem. But we really, really love what we do. We love being able to help other people. That's what it's about for me. Like one of the things I do, Brian, is one of our products is called Power Days. It's a somewhat of a costly product because it's a done with you product where we come into your office and spend a lot of time with you. But I don't charge in full for that product. A lot of people give me grief for this because they're like, dude, you should charge more, first of all. And second of all, like you should charge upfront everything, right? But the way I've always approached it is one, I only ask for a deposit to hold the dates for the 90 days, right? Because if I don't, and then people back out, then I can't help somebody else. So I always ask for a deposit just to hold the dates. But I don't charge in full until we're done with the 90 days. So I'm very leveraged in those 90 days on my costs. And people are like, why do you do that? You're a business coach. Would you coach somebody else to do that? And the answer is it comes back to my purpose. My purpose is to do a good work, right? And to support God's work. I don't think it's a good work if I come and charge you and then at the end of 90 days, Brian, you're like, I ain't getting value from this. Yeah. So I leverage it all on us because at the end of the 90 days, you have an option. You can pay me or not pay me. If you don't pay me, probably wouldn't ever do anything with you again, right? But on the other side, I didn't deserve it. Right? Like I didn't earn it. And I don't want it. I don't want it if we didn't earn it. And I've had customers call me and be like, bro, I'm teetering on whether or not I pay this or not. I'm like, really? You work with 1,800, you're going to have a handful that you didn't show up very well. I mean, if you're transparent, if you want to lie to the world and go like, no, I'm perfect all the time, then it's not true. But I would say there's probably, and it's been low. I mean, probably 3 to 4 that have called us and said, I don't know, man. I'm like not feeling it. And every situation like that, I always said, what else did you need that we didn't provide? And then I go to another level of like, I'm not only going to provide it, but I'm going to go a step further than your expectation. And then I still don't require them to pay me, but I don't want to walk away with feeling like I didn't deliver value or didn't provide good success to you. And so that's kind of been our journey from like all the way from like starting in corporate America all the way to where we are now, and then the reasons and the kind of the purpose behind why we do what we do. It's not about the money. It's not. If it was, honestly, Brian, I think your listeners would understand this when I say it. If I want to make more money, I just go do more real estate. I've already been successful at it. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like at this point, it's not about money. It's about legacy. It's about leaving a mark. This is probably the best thing that, I've ever been able to do in my life is to be able to invest in other people and see their lives changed. And it doesn't happen every time. It's not like every person we help like grows to some massive organization. But the truth is they grow to their 100%. That's where we want them. We want, not every company out there is meant to be a Fortune 500 company. Some of them just want to be free. They just want the ability to make the decision to go or not go wherever they want to go or how they run it. And they don't want to be handcuffed to their company. And that's cool for me to see that happen, that transformation. So
that's a good point too, because a lot of companies, it depends on their goal. Like some people just want to have be able to take vacations or just be able to do what they want and work and vacation or whatever. And then some people are like, no, we're building this to a $500 million company.
Right.
So everyone's got their thing.
Yeah. And those quadrants kind of help us determine we say rise to your 100%. One of those quadrants is where we'll stop depending on where you are and where you want to be long term. So like the 100% is always your key purpose indicator. I created 4 types of KPIs. I trademarked. One is your key purpose indicator, profit indicator, performance indicator, and process indicator. Those are the 4. And then there's always been the performance indicator, but then how we use those 4 together is kind of, is what's trademark for us. But we always start with your 100% defining that, which is, what is it? It's your purpose, and then how do we measure your purpose? So I said my purpose is to do a good work that supports God's work. Our purpose indicator is giving $2.6 million by 2026 to God's work. So that's how we'll measure that. And based on the way I have it structured, not getting paid in full till the end, I can measure the good work side of it because they paid me. And then the second part of that, giving back to God's work, I measure that by how much we give, right? And so that's our purpose indicator. Now, our scale and how big we get and the decisions we make every single day, from how much do we charge to do we charge in full, do we wait till the end of the 90 days, all is predicated. The processes, the growth, the plan is all predicated off that purpose. And so I'm going to push to a $26 million business. That's my 100%, because I want to give 10% of that away.
Yeah. And you know what? When you break it down like that, it's something manageable. It's like, okay, and you can understand it. It's like, okay, if we have these numbers and if we do these specific things, we know when we hit the goal.
And then here's the nice thing about that is, not only do we help a company to achieve it, define its purpose, but the second side of that is, what's Brian's purpose? Because a company has a purpose, but then Brian's life should have a purpose too. And so, it's not always the same just because you're the entrepreneur and the owner, right? My personal purpose is help others. I always put the statement behind me is, we rise by lifting others. That's my personal purpose. I want to rise up by lifting other people up with me. I want to take people with me. The company's purpose is to do a good work that supports God's work, right? So then I have to ask the question, does the company's purpose help me achieve my personal purpose? Right? Because if we get misalignment there, then you get visionaries, entrepreneurs, owners that at some point hate their own culture. They don't even enjoy the business anymore. They're just doing it because it makes them money. I don't know how many times my phone's ringing. It literally rang this morning from a guy here in Indiana, and he's like, "Hey, can I talk to you?" And I was like, "Yeah." He's like, "Bro, I hate my companies. Like, I just don't enjoy this at all anymore." And I'm like, "Well, let's talk about that, because I know what it is. It's a symptom of not aligning with your culture." Right. Yeah. And so what causes a culture fail is when we don't align it. Our purpose doesn't align with the company's purpose anymore.
So what do you do then? Because I know a lot of people deal with that. Like, what do you do? They're like, "Oh, I'm making so much money and this sucks and I'm burning out." Like, what do you do?
You live in the owner's box, right?
Yeah.
You move to the owner's box, which is where I live in a lot of companies, because I have companies. I have a horse company that breeds and shows horses, right? It doesn't help me get my purpose. Doesn't help me at all, but I don't work in that business. Your personal purpose, to achieve it, you got to put your time to where it achieves that personal purpose. So everybody asks me, like, well, if you're so successful, right, and this and that, like, why do you still coach? Well, first of all, I have like 12 coaches other than me. Second of all, I only still coach because it supports my personal purpose, right? It's not about the money. It's about why I do it. And I get fulfillment from doing it personally. So being on a podcast like this today, it's helping people. I don't get paid to be here. There's no restitution for it. There's no any of that. It's just, at the end of the day, I know that I, Gary Harper, cannot help other people rise to the magnitudes that I want to without utilizing somebody like yourself that has a network that you can put the message out to help people. And if you ever watch our podcast, if you ever watch our shows, like, and as you're watching this one, I don't like hold back value. Like, that's not the intent. The intent isn't to like give you a nugget to make you go, "Man, I need his help." It's to help you. That's what this podcast is about today. Like, let's walk away today with legitimate value to somebody so they can go implement, do something, or just an idea, or even like wow, Gary just hit it for me. Like I'm burned out because my purpose isn't being supported here. Like if that one thing, Brian, changed somebody's life today, this podcast was more than worth it, right?
Yeah. And that's a big thing. Even just that thing right there too. I even noticed it in our business. It's like being in a bipolar business, right? It's like you're crushing it, you're loving it. Then it's like, this is just the monotonous same thing. And you're right. If you have that purpose, if it's accomplishing what your goals are personally, then it kind of makes sense. It keeps giving you energy. Like if you
Yeah, it
do the
does.
things that keep giving you the energy, then you're good.
Well, so I'm always trying to protect those things. I'm trying to protect energy and emotion. So I look for in our businesses and for people that I coach to make sure that they get the emotional paycheck, right? So the emotional paycheck, whether it's your employees or you personally, you got to have that. And the emotional paycheck's more than money. It's the emotional side of why you're doing it. And purpose is a part of that. The other side is, does it energize me to do it? Right? Like I want to make sure I live my life in those two, making sure that I'm supporting those two areas. It energizes me and I get an emotional paycheck from it. And at least one of the two. Like if I speak on a big, I was at the Mirage speaking, I don't know, last 7 days ago, whatever, for Ryan Pineda and his event, the WealthCon. And I was standing on stage and I'm looking around. There's thousands of people in the room. And I'm sitting there thinking to myself, like, man, this is cool. Right. And that energized me. I don't know that it gave me an emotional paycheck, though. Sitting one to one with somebody, having a conversation like I did this morning with the guy that called me, gives me an emotional paycheck because I got value. I brought value to him. I was able to help him. Right. And so whenever I can do those two things, that's a really good moment for me when I'm getting the emotional paycheck and I'm being energized at the same time. But I'll take it all day long if I just get one of those two, right?
Give me a couple examples of emotional paychecks from what you see from different business owners.
First one is like having people around you in your culture that align with you. That's an emotional paycheck. Second one is being in the right seat in your own company. That's an emotional paycheck. So we always talk about culture. Everybody thinks culture is like this like unicorn that you can't be found, right? And it's not true. Well, I even heard people before and they asked the question, how'd you create your culture? They give some like off wall statement. It's like, but man, it's just who I am, or some stupid statement like it just kind of fell into place. And that's never the case. It doesn't just fall into place. And it's not because of you either. It starts with you, but culture comes from 4 areas. The first area is position alignment. Like you got to be in alignment with the people in your company that they're in the right seat. And you've got to be in the right seat, right? If you're in a seat that drains your energy, right? That's not a seat that's going to give you an emotional paycheck. Same thing if you have somebody in the company that you have in the wrong seat and they don't have a desire to sit there. They don't have the skills to sit there. They don't have the behavioral to sit there. You don't see them growing with that seat. Then that is a wrong seat person or a wrong seat for them. Then you're going to start to affect your culture that way. So first one is position alignment. Second one is value alignment. So like in any relationship, you have to have your values and you have to know their values and you have to be willing to respect those values. You get people in your company that are in the wrong, they're in the wrong seat, and then you put the wrong people in your company, right? Then you're going to start to have values. I can tell you all the time, I see people that hire people for the right seat. Those people crush it. They make them a lot of money, but they're the wrong people and they kill their culture, or vice versa. They don't crush it. They struggle to get the job done, but they're the right people and everybody loves them. Either way, it hurts culture because what you permit, you promote.
So when people are looking to hire, when they get to that stage and they're hiring these people, how do you find that person? Because you're dealing with an interview. You might have 2 interviews with the person, but how do you determine? Because otherwise you're going to spend 6 months training this person and then find out, wait a minute, I goofed up.
Yeah. In our RISE curriculum, this is part of the resource day, which is RISE stands for resources, inspiration, systems, and engagement. So resource day is about identifying your time, your money, and your people. And so when, sometimes you're not in the people yet, but you're identifying the time and the money. Like if you're first getting started, it's like, how much money do I need to make? How much money do I need to earn or spend? What time frame do I need to do this in? Like that's when you start setting your 90-day, your 1 year goals. But then at some point, as you stated, you get to a point where you're like, now I need to hire my first person, right? And so we always measure the right seat by what is the heart, the head, the hands, and the feet tell you. And so it's a rhyme in our curriculum. I rhymed it on purpose so that we have this ability to remember, right? I like writing poems. So it's the heart, the head, the hands, the feet tell you if you're in the
right seat.
So there it is. So the heart is desire, right? somebody's got a desire to want to do that job. Like they've got to have a burning heart for it, right? And there's some questions in our curriculum that you can ask that helps determine desire. One would be, do you feel energized when you do this? Do you get the emotional paycheck from this, right? There's some questions like that we ask. There's assessments out there that you can use, like Find Your Mojo, right? Find Your Mojo is an assessment tool that you can go take, and it tells you what their desires are, right? Like my wife's is the desire of learning. She desires learning. So anytime we set her in a seat that she's not going to have to learn in, or it's not the ability to like make it better or grow it, she's not going to get energized sitting there, right? And so we need to know that about people. The second part is the heart. The second part's the head. So in the head, we're measuring like behavioral traits, we're measuring cognitive scores, things like that. Why? Because we're looking at the potential of the person, right? We're looking at a predictive index and a cognitive ability. If I'm putting somebody in our company into a seat and they say, yeah, I 100% desire to sit in the seat, I do feel like I get energized. I've even done it before, that kind of thing. And then I measure their behavioral traits, and they don't have the natural behavior to do that job. You say, what do you mean by that? Well, in sales, we got to have somebody who's willing to solve problems that can be agnostic in solving problems. When they're on the appointment and a problem's thrown their way, we got to be able to navigate that. They have to have a need for social interaction. They got to want to be around people, right? They got to drive to get things done, and they got to be somewhat risk tolerant in sales, because if somebody tells them no, then they've got to be willing to get another no, right? They got to be willing, persistent to follow up. So if somebody doesn't have those natural behavioral traits, in other words, they don't have a need for social interaction, they don't have a high drive, they don't have the ability to hear no 7 times or more, right? Then they're going to have to modify to sit in that seat. And it doesn't mean they can't, Brian. It doesn't mean that they can have a low predictive index assessment and modify and still get performance. But when we're measuring these 4 areas, we're measuring the potential of the person and we're measuring performance of the person. And potential is like, how long will they do it? Well, if you got to modify more than 1 or 2 traits in order to do a job and get performance, it's going to burn you out eventually, right? So the first thing is desire to do it. Second thing is behavioral and cognitive. Third thing is skills, training, experience. Do you have it? What's your resume look like? Have you done this before? Where have you done this before? Were you successful at it? Like all those interview questions. And then the fourth thing is what we call the feat, which is their mobility, their ability to grow with that seat or grow the seat. Can they train someone else? Like those are all the things that we're evaluating. There's some questions I have there too. I like to use Working Genius in that area of mobility, because Working Genius is an assessment that allows me to see like what their potential is in that seat to grow it. So when you talk about it, the heart and the hands, those two right there, the skills and desire, that will measure somebody's performance, how they're going to perform. You do an assessment like Predictive Index and Working Genius, it can give you a good indication of how they're going to perform long term, but it's not going to tell you how they're going to perform today. Their skills, their training, and experience are going to tell you how they perform today, along with the desire. If somebody's done this for 20 years, Brian, but they don't desire to want to do it anymore, they're just doing it because they have to, their performance isn't going to be there. And they can desire to do it, but not have any training in it, and performance isn't going to be there, right? Because they need the training. Those two together help us measure somebody's performance, where the head and the feet, the predictive index, the behavioral traits, the Working Genius, those tell you the potential of the person long-term to be in that seat. And so it's really important that we have all 4 of those measured when we put somebody in a seat in the organization, because if we don't, then we're not measuring the whole person, because the whole person shows up, right? Like it's not just parts of them that come to work, all of them come to work, right? So we need all of them because we want potential and performance. Like I want at minimum, like somebody that has at least a like 5, 6 out of 10 in potential, and somebody that's a 5, 6 out of 10 in performance, right? Like that's bare minimum. Like obviously all-star type players would be high potential, high performing people, right? We have in our curriculum, we have what we call the 9-box system, and one side is potential and the other side is performance. So when we put somebody in the seat, we measure those things based on below, meets, or exceeds in each of those categories. And depending on where they lie, if they're 1 in performance and a 3 in potential, then they're a high potential, low performing candidate. Now, doesn't mean that they can't perform. You're just going to have to get them skills, training, experience to get there. And if they have potential to being really good, then you might want to make the decision to invest in them.
Yeah, and that's a lot of stuff too, especially like investors hear this too. If you're hiring people, it's going to waste like 6 months hiring the wrong people. And I look at like most things in my life. It's like, you know what? Gary does what he does. I could maybe learn it in 20 years. Or why not just piggyback on all the punches in the face and learning that he's had to do, just have him do it and then focus on flipping houses. Or like in my case, digital marketing, whatever it is.
Yeah. I mean, that's where we have been successful, not only in Sharper, but in corporate America, is because it's called BPO, business process outsourcing. Like, what are the things you're doing, running meetings, hiring people, documenting processes? What are those things you're doing that aren't a core service offering to you? And you go focus on being great at that, right? Like, let us focus on doing the other things. Now, part of what we do is consult and coach you on how to grow your niche, how to get better at it, right? So that's a part of it. But at the end of the day, like all these things, it's like I just told you when we started, like I'm going to tell everybody what we do. Question you have to ask yourself is, do you want to go learn to do that?
I don't want to learn it.
The heart, the head, the hands, feet. If you're going to put somebody in the right seat, you better be measuring those things. Because Brian, we haven't even touched on the fact if they're the right people yet. If they're the right people for you, then they're going to align with your values and your goals. And so there's a whole nother measurement, when we're in the interview process, of measuring their values and their goals to see whether or not they're going to support yours. And what I don't want is high trust, low performing people. I also don't want high performing people with low trust. That's the whole right people, right seats. One of the things I love about our RISE business framework that we created is there's a lot of philosophy driven operating systems out there, but not too many of them. Like I really can't think of very many at all that are tactically driven. Like you hear the philosophy of right people, right seat and the importance of that. But how do you measure it? Like the heart, the head, the hands, the feet tell you if you're in the right seat. That's the tactical side of right seat. And then measuring their core values and measuring their purpose and their goals tells you if they're the right people. And right. So earlier we were talking about culture. We said position alignment. We said personal alignment, people alignment. Then we have to have purpose alignment. Their purpose, your purpose should be aligned. In other words, your company's purpose should help you achieve your personal purpose. But your personal purpose and the company's purpose should help your employees achieve theirs. Because if they don't help them achieve it, then they will come to work for you because they have to, not because they want to. And they will stay because they have to, not because they want to. We talk about that emotional paycheck. When somebody can see how their personal purpose is achieved by helping the company achieve its purpose, that's an emotional paycheck. And it's a nice thing about that is not only is it emotional for them, they become what we call want to employees versus have to employees. There's a statement that says most people work hard enough not to get fired and get paid just enough not to quit. George Carlin said that. So he says they work hard enough not to get fired and get paid just enough not to quit. Those are have to employees. Want to employee studies show that their productivity rises over 34% once they want to be there.
It makes sense.
So we got position alignment, we've got purpose alignment, we've got people alignment, and then the last one is we got goal alignment. To create culture, those four things have to be in play. Goal alignment is so important. You get somebody on your team that's in the right seat, they're the right people, they were pushing towards your purpose, but they're like, dude, I don't really want to do 300 deals a year. I don't really want to, contact 50 people a day. Like, those aren't my goals. My goals is just to make enough. And so I've seen more partnerships split over goal alignment than any of the other three. And this applies to us personally too. Like, I don't know about, your audience, but, if you're listening to this and you're in a relationship with somebody, you have to protect those four areas too. You have to protect position. You're like, well, how does that work in a relationship? Well, somebody's got to agree to do the dishes. Somebody's got to agree to cut the grass. Somebody's got to agree to pay the bills. Those are positions in your household, right? And so you have to align. Somebody's got to be on the same page with the other person in that area. The next thing is you better know their values and they better know yours, and you better be willing to respect them.
Hey, Gary, do you have RISE for married couples?
I don't have RISE for married couples. I'm coming out with RISE for youth. I'm going to come out with RISE for her and RISE for him, because really a marriage at the end of the day, you can't change somebody else, right? You can change you. And the truth is, at the end of the day, the reason why people stay successful in relationships is because they're willing to work on themselves. And the partner that they're with is also willing to work on themselves. They don't always have to do that together for it to be a healthy relationship. They just have to do it with that other person in mind.
When are those coming out?
So Rise for Business came out this year. It'll probably be in 2024, Rise for Youth, and then following suit with that with Rise for Him and Rise for Her. They're already being worked on. It's just like when they launch. So
right.
Yeah.
That's cool. So say someone wants to reach out to you and see if it's a fit working with you. What's the best way?
Well, the best way to do that would be go to, there's two websites. One is GaryHarper.com. You can schedule a call with me. The other one would be sharperbusiness.com. And on there, you can schedule a free consultation. So because I explained to you earlier, there's a lot of risk on us working with somebody because we don't charge them full till it's over. We don't do the same thing for our workshop or our Sharper Live. It's $1,500 and it's like you come to that. And if you ask for a refund, then we'd refund your money if you didn't get value. But because we're buying space and there's a lot of costs, we don't do it that way there. But all that to say is every person who starts a journey with us in any capacity, we want to do a business assessment first. So we do a free business assessment to kind of determine where you are, where you want to go, what your 100% looks like. What are those obstacles standing in your way to getting there? And the reason for that, Brian, is because no business is a one-size-fits-all solution. Nothing that we do is like a box that you put your business in. We have to customize the solution around your needs and where you are. So depending on what quadrant of business you're in, maybe you're in the resource phase, maybe you're in the inspiration, maybe you're in systems, maybe you're engagement. Engagement's more of that expansion model. You've got the right people in the right seats. You got your goals down in, your meeting structure, your process document, all that's happening. And now you want to 10X it, right? Some people get to engagement, other people don't. So some people are like, no, I'm going to run a mom and pop shop and just, enjoy my weekends. While other people are like, I want to 10X this thing. So that's that last quadrant. But, depending on where you are in that and where you want to go, then we have to create a customized solution for you. So we start with a free business assessment, and then we do actually build a plan for you that is customized for your company to help you reach your goals. And sometimes that includes us saying, hey, listen, where you are right now, best thing to do is come to our workshop. Where you are right now, the best thing that you do is just do resource day. The best way right now for you would be to do the whole 90-day power days, right? Like it really depends on where they are and where they want to go. But, reaching out to us at sharperbusiness.com, schedule that free assessment. It doesn't cost you a dime, right? My chief growth officer does the assessment with you and helps you look at your business from a different way.
Yeah, guys, check that out. We'll have those websites. I mean, especially get to the assessment. Doesn't cost anything. You can find out.
Yeah. Brian, another thing, and I don't talk enough about this, but, my team has done a phenomenal job with giving free content away. A lot of what we talked about today, even. If you go to our YouTube channel is hours of streaming content of all of our business coaches, not just Gary Harper, but all of them, and different perspectives and different types of training and things like that, from hiring people to processes to consulting to, our business operating system, all that's out there. We do shorts and longs on YouTube. We do it on TikTok. We do it on Instagram, Threads, Facebook, so like we've spent a lot of money. We have Sharper Studios where we do a lot of recordings. We spent a lot of money pushing free content for people because, again, our purpose is to do a good work. And so we don't want to just like put teasers out there. We put a really good job of putting good, valuable content out there.
Yeah, what's the YouTube channel called?
It's just Sharper Business Solutions. You go to YouTube, type in Sharper Business Solutions. If you go to GaryHarper.com, there's a link to all of my social media. And so you can click on any one of those and go straight to it from there if you don't want to go like surfing for it.
Nice. All right. I want to talk about one other thing before I let you go.
Okay.
So you said you weighed over 300 pounds, right?
I did.
And now on the camera, I can see you don't weigh that.
No.
What made you make the decision? So I know there's a lot of people out there, like even me and different people, like everyone wants to get healthy, but it takes something to like take action, and then it's a lot of hard work. So tell me about that.
It was about 3 years ago. I think it was right around 2020. And obviously COVID like reshaped our mind around health. And I'm flying a lot, man. I'm gone about every bit of I'm only home about 90 days a year. And being on planes like I was on, like, man, if I got COVID, I didn't know, right? Like I was diabetic. I was like, man, I might not come out of this. And even at a young age, I started seeing friends. I had a good friend with Investor Carrot. God bless his heart. He passed away, right? And so I'm like, man, I need to do a self-check here. And so I went to the doctor, got some blood work done, and sure enough, I was unhealthy. And not only that, man, like you wake up one day and it's like, Yeah, I'm teaching people how to be a leader. I'm teaching people how to run their companies. I'm teaching how people how to be disciplined. Man, I don't know that anybody should even respect me because I can't even be disciplined in my own life. Right. So I went on a journey of like self improvement in that area and health. And I did it on my own for a little while. I think I lost 40 pounds on my own. And then it was like somewhere around 2021, January 2021, my dad passed away. And when my dad passed away, like I had plateaued at this point. I was like 260 and I wasn't moving. And like I saw my dad leave a legacy, live a long life. He was in the military 21 years. He took care of his body. And I saw his body like get ravished in his 70s. Even after he took care of it, at my age, he was like lean, mean, run 5 miles a day. And I'm like, I am not even going to make it to 74 if I don't get this under control. And I felt stuck. So I reached out to a company called The Starting Line, and the guy's name is Aaron and Cole Taylor, those guys. And I reached out to them, and they went through and started doing something that's very similar to what I do with business, so it attracted me. And they do what's called a body operating system. So it's not just like, here's your macros and go eat right. It's not just, here's a workout plan. It's like blood work. It's like a full scope of your whole system and a customized way of moving your body forward. And we were talking about it. Even like now, I've lost 100 and some pounds. I'm down to like 203 right now. I was at 307. I'm sitting here right now and I'm still like overweight. Like on the BMI, I'm still like considered obese, which is crazy. I've lost over 100 pounds and still there, but like they're still working with me, right? And it's a long process. Like it started in 2021, we're in 2023, right? So, it's a long process, but I'm losing it the right way. So this just yesterday, they met with me and they're like, here's what we need you to do. We need you to 100% focus on these foods for breakfast, these foods for snacks, these foods for lunch, this second snack, and this dinner. Like, and we don't want you to deviate even from the menu. Like, we want you to have the 7 ounces of chicken for lunch, like every day. You're doing 7 ounces of chicken. And you might be listening to this going, dude, that sucks. I don't want to do it. But it's not a long-term thing. It's just for the next 3 weeks. So the next 3 weeks, I ate 2 yogurts, 000 yogurts with 10 cashews. And then I'm going to do a Fairlife shake for my snack and then like 7 strawberries, right? And then 7 ounces of chicken for lunch with salad and black beans. And then another snack, 2 rice cakes with peanut butter on them for my second snack. And then at the end of the day, 7 ounces of lean protein with salad and more black beans. And that's it. That's what I'm going to have today. That's my menu. And I'm going to eat that exact same, meals for the next 3 weeks. Because it's like a prescription at this point. There's things I need to heal in my body, my liver and things like that the food will heal my body with. So this is what I love about them. They put you on this regimen, not a long period, but they put you on a regimen for what's ailing you and what changes your body needs right in that moment. And then every week they meet with you strategically to say, what do we need to change? Every quarter they do more blood work to see how your body's responding, put you on different supplements and vitamins and things like that. Work with your doctor to make sure you're getting the right hormones and stuff. So they put me on hormone replacements and things like that. But they do all this stuff. It's literally a body operating system. And it's probably been the best investment. And you say, well, like, I don't know that I need that. Well, my son who's 22 years old does it. My daughter who's 24 and a nurse does it. My son-in-law, my daughter-in-law, my wife. My wife's lost 90 pounds in the last year doing it. And it's just a smart way to make sure your body stays healthy. When they started with my son, I said to my son, he's about 6'1". They started with him. He only weighed like 160 or something like that, 155. And they're like, you're way too skinny. Like you have very little body mass muscle wise. Like we have to like get some more muscle on your body. And so they actually put on 30 pounds of muscle on him in 120 days.
A lot.
They took him to 5,000 calories a day and put him on a workout regimen. I'm talking like they didn't put any type of steroids. They didn't go any of that. I mean, they're very, very healthy. That boy put on 30 pounds of muscle, weighs 190 now. And it's just, he's lean. He's just straight muscle. It's really cool because they really do kind of like what we do. They start you with where you are and where you want to go, and they customize the solution for you. And so I just spent like 10 minutes selling their company, but hey, you do, right? You do when you believe in something, right? You do when you've seen results like I have. So I'm not ashamed at all to like promote them.
Yeah. You know what? Like it's like the same thing. Like, because I got into, I was telling you earlier, I did similar type of thing. It's like, You can try to learn how to eat healthy or go find the people that know how to do it and have them help you do it. Like the same thing. It would take you forever to come up with your meal plan and know how it's going to react with your body and things like that versus find a guy that lives and breathes that.
Yeah. Well, and the biggest thing too is accountability. And the second thing is like the pivoting, the structure, when you hit that ceiling, like businesses hit a plateau. And it's like, how do we adjust the business? What needs adjusted in order to overcome that plateau that we're at? Well, same thing with your body. I hit a plateau. I lost 40 pounds on my own. And I guarantee you, there's people on this call that are going to go out and they're going to build the process, procedures, and policies, try to hire the right people. They're going to get stuck. They're going to hit a plateau. And when we hit those plateaus, when we get frustrated the most and we don't know how to adjust. And that's where our business consulting comes into play. It's like, here's the adjustments you need. Because why? Because I've done this 1,800 times. I've seen your plateau countless amount of times, right? And it's funny. It's like almost like somebody brought a parakeet in my office sometimes and the same things are chirped over and over and over again out of entrepreneur's mouth. I've seen this hundreds of times, if not 1,000 times or more, right? So I know how to adjust you. Well, you've seen it only now for the first time.
Yep, that makes sense. Hey, well, Gary, thanks for coming on. Everyone reach out. Gary, give us your websites one more time.
Yeah, it's GaryHarper.com for all my social media and to schedule a call with me. And then sharperbusiness.com if you're interested in our products or you want that free business assessment.
Cool, man. Hey, everyone, thanks for listening. Yeah, get out there, crush it, close some deals. Reach out to Gary. Hey, Gary, we'll talk next time.
Thanks, buddy.
Thanks, man. We appreciate you.